Hi. So for this video, I got pretty excited because I had never thought about talking about these things, like, ever. And what's funny is that I didn't even know that these things existed before 6 months ago. Spiritual warfare. I always heard the term, but I had never really known what it was about. Being raised Christian, Southern Baptist, well, kind of. Like, I started going to church when I was about 16, and I would always hear people talking about spiritual warfare, and I was always thinking, oh, it's like the devil and, bad thoughts and having to, like, fight the good fight and, things like that, which it is, kind of. But there's a lot more to it than that. And, yeah, so sit back. I had to grab some Perrier for this mission because, yeah, I had to get refreshed on that because, it gets a little stupid, to tell you the absolute truth. What I've learned about spiritual warfare is that sometimes people cause a lot more problems than there need to be. And where I am now with any video that I make is where I am now. I guess where I am now is the disclaimer that kind of comes along with any of my videos. As time goes on, usually evolution happens, and I mean, like, you just learn stuff through experience, and you find out that you were wrong about some things, or maybe you were more right about them, or maybe like they got magnified, cleared up, expanded on. So that's my disclaimer with me saying this. But yeah, right now it stands that people just make more problems than there need to be. My notion now is that maybe the problems that they cause are because of the devil. Maybe like there's some sort of pseudo possession happening, and that's why these people choose to do what they do. So let me explain what they do. Oh gosh, it can go on forever, it seems like, but basically it's just like spiritual bullies. People who are gifted or aware, in tune, connected, roamers and participants, maybe in the astral plane, but basically they just carry an energy with them, and more oftentimes than not, it seems like they are intentionally emitting energy that is hateful. And you can be on a good frequency and you'll experience like an interference. And especially if you're in the vicinity of people who are practitioners of this type of behavior, you'll notice that you'll feel a heaviness. And there's all kinds of tricks and deceiving ways of redirecting energy or playing it off. Everyone who does these things kind of plays dumb. There are different languages in the spiritual realm. It tends to come along with different nationalities, different organizations and groups. What I mean by organizations and groups are that there are certain systems that often have people who are members of the same organization within the system and throughout it. And they have a certain way of doing things. You have religious groups. specific ones, not all, that have their way. And then you go into like regions of places and then cultures of people, and then it starts getting more like the languages that are spoken through like verbal language, like words, but instead it becomes like a spiritual like culture and how people are as a unit. And sometimes these things are very broken and divided, where everyone is kind of out for themselves, but culturally they know that they're all in it together, and culturally there's just like a perpetual war, which leads me into voodoo and witchcraft. Please don't think that these people are anywhere besides potentially very close. I always knew that witchcraft was not far away. I had friends that practiced witchcraft. Not initially when we met, but over time they found these things. Didn't bother me. I knew people who were pagan, who were Wiccan, who practiced Wicca. I guess they were Wiccan. Yeah, it didn't bother me. But it's when I started getting into like the study of like voodoo, which is practiced predominantly, well, not predominantly, but in the Caribbean. Voodoo is more in Haiti, and witchcraft is more in Jamaica. And I have family from Jamaica. So yeah, so I started asking questions, not to my family members, because in a lot of Jamaican families, mom's the word. So yeah, so I asked other people, because I started feeling a certain kind of way, and it was before I actually got involved or educated about things, but I knew what I knew. So I would ask other people, and not just a few. When I gather information, I like it to be in abundance. And that's not to say that large groups of people are always right. Because if you look at politics, it's a good illustration of what I'm talking about. And I'll just kind of leave it there. If I get into politics, it's going to be a long day. And you might be frustrated with me because I tend to go into the realm of, I don't care, but I have this opinion. But my opinion is that there seem to be like a lot of gimmicks going on. And unless I'm participating with the gimmicks, then I'm just getting gimmicks played on me. So we're gonna have to need a lot of beer for that one. But yeah, large groups of people not being right. So when I was gathering my information about the old witchcraft situation, I found a lot of really interesting information out. I found a girl whose ex-boyfriend was from a place where they practiced witchcraft, and she felt his mother was doing something kind of fishy about her. And one day, I guess she was inspired to look in the mom's purse, or something happened where she basically ran into a Ziploc bag that had like a piece of cloth cut from her panties, her picture, and some of her hair put into a plastic bag. And then another lady I met who was from like the deep south, her mom had a closet full of these things. No Caribbean connection from what I understand, but she had a closet full of jars that had labels for different people on them, and each jar contained, I guess, just like a little smorgasbord buffet of their belongings and possessions. And I've heard about these things before. I've seen possessions of people who practice voodoo. I spoke to a girl who was from Louisiana, and there's a different kind of, I guess a different kind of voodoo there, but I was more interested in like voodoo dolls. And then there's all kinds of other little practices with fires and mixes and recipes to put on people if you want to get married to them. That's all kind of spiritual warcraft. It's like people, I made another video about your astral experience being quantum, and the ultimate is that you're not God. In here, in like 5D, you are not God. People tend to get into this realm, and I notice that they start getting wild, thinking that they are just it, and you're beautiful. But you are not it. And what I noticed is that the same mentality carries over to this, I want to be king of the castle, bullying, just annoying kind of group of people that kind of just voluntarily interfere with people and try to undermine them, try to get a leg up on them, basically do things in really shady ways in order to gain some sort of power, jurisdiction, knowledge, attention. It's like basically kids throwing tantrums, but spiritually. That's what I noticed. I've noticed it in a lot of different ways. I've noticed it with groups of people who were in the know. Groups are very interesting when people run in packs and they're all working together. It's really interesting because they really think that they're doing something special. And the God complex is what keeps them from acting with a kind of integrity, in my opinion. Because it's an attacking behavior, it's a sneaky behavior, it's I'm gonna play dumb later behavior. It's, oh, you know now? Oh, well, I'm on your side. I've seen that so much, especially from one group of people, especially. And I don't know whether it's because they're in my bloodline or whether it's cultural. I've had a friend from a similar area say it was cultural. Not quite sure, but I've experienced a lot of this from this group. Almost everywhere that I go, including within my own family. And there doesn't seem to be any attention paid to karma. Now, other groups that do pay attention to karma tend to be pure in their approach to things. Even if there is like a want for information or a jealousy or any kind of other human behavior or human trait, there's an acknowledgement of truth. On one side, when there's no acknowledgement of truth, it just becomes this like really petty game, like someone just kind of doing like, let me reverse, kind of doing like this to you, and it's kind of like, stop. All right, you're there, let me just ignore you for a little while. Oh, you're there. And it's kind of like, what do you think you're doing? You really think you're getting far with this? Like, and then you get to a point where you just don't want to be bothered like at all. Ultimately, it makes you stronger. Ultimately, it all backfires. So it doesn't really matter. You know, silver is refined with fire. So I say, let's go to war. When I meet people that are like this, I'm more like, let's do this thing. And you wind up harvesting. So, Yeah, and even you gotta check yourself. You know, you might have ways of gathering your own information, and you may be completely innocent in your approach, but you kind of had to re-examine yourself to make sure that you're not like eavesdropping against someone who may not be willing, or you know, prying too hard. Basically just having respect. Online, I haven't really seen, I guess I've seen a version of spiritual warfare, but I guess the most that I've really seen has been like within these karmic groups. Sometimes there's like a fight for pole position, and I'm just getting my feet wet with really like participating. Maybe it's just my personality type, but I think that's kind of like a different kind of thing. I think everyone there is more excited about what they know, and sometimes there isn't an acknowledgement of we're all right. But I think that's just like the period of time in which we're at. So it's not like a spiritual warfare. Spiritual warfare is real and it's intentional. As far as the demonic side is concerned, I think that's a whole other video. It's a very all of it's very predatorial. But what happens in summary is that over time you begin to recognize it. And like everything, you get taught something by it. It's God's way. So it's all good. Don't be afraid of the spells. Don't be afraid of the old witchcraft. Don't be afraid of the old voodoo. Don't be afraid of the Satanists. Don't be afraid of Satan. Don't be afraid of angry spirits or all possessions. Because what trumps all of that is that God is above all of those things. That's the secret, is that God is above all of these things. So when people come hard at you with all of these things that they think are so powerful, if you really know that going forward, it's like you're indestructible. So with that, I feel like I've gotten my point across. I feel like I've delivered my message in a pretty, you know, organized way. Sometimes I can just go all over the place. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Hopefully it'll be a good one. Hopefully this one was a good one. Bye.